Hello, and welcome to another one of my absolute favorite segments, which is our Amazon Ads Q&A session. Ask me anything. I am here live for an hour, so I appreciate all of you joining the stream, both on YouTube as well as a lot of us are here on LinkedIn. So if you have yet to join one of these sessions, basically you can use the chat option to type in any of your Amazon advertising questions, and I will go ahead and get those answered for you. So again, I appreciate the interactions. I appreciate any comments. So if any one of you has an Amazon ad question, again, feel free to use the chat button. Awesome. Looks like we already got one coming in. So yeah, absolutely keep them coming, and we will go ahead and just dive right on into it. So one of the questions was, we were aggressively in PPC this season. A lot of PPC campaigns are currently running with profitable ACOS and tacos. How to tackle low season sales dip if your PPC is still spending high? Oh goodness, this is a great question. So if you want to follow with a follow-up question, I'm assuming what you're saying is that Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you saw like sort of those sales upswings, and so spend did, kind of upswung accordingly. A lot of that actually comes from an increase in clicks, not necessarily say getting more aggressive with your bidding strategies. However, after Cyber Monday deals, oftentimes you'll see the sales drop off. Now, ideally, they're going to kind of hit a higher drop off than they were like pre-Black Friday. That's been happening in most of our accounts. However, oftentimes spend continues to stay elevated, and so that's definitely something to keep on top of. So I'm going to hide this question and ask, and if you have any follow-up questions or want to add some more context and clarity, feel free to drop again more context in the chat. That is a really good question. Like, how do you correct for it quickly? Because in these times, you really need to move quickly. One thing that we will do, so seasons meaning winter season, yes. One thing that we will do is often look at shorter date ranges. Now, normally, we want to look at a longer date range because we want to see what's working, right? But in these times where things change so rapidly, we're really kind of looking at even maybe like 1 to 2 day date ranges, not necessarily to make major changes. You're mostly looking for all of the things that are overspending and not performing well and bleeding out money. So that's what I would do. Also, now this is slightly controversial because there's a lot of people who say like, hey, completely untapped budgets. You always should have budgets. If you go in and you look at the budget tab, you will see that all of a sudden, the Amazon's telling you like, look how many additional sales you could be creating if you had only this, double, triple the budget that you currently have. And while that's true, the factor you want to figure out is that budget going to make you profitable? So one thing we will do, which still allows us to be more aggressive with our bids. So there's two schools of thought here. One says, hey, only ever control it at the bid level. The school of thought we run into is, yes, we are 100% adjusting bids. And again, frequently, sometimes on shorter date ranges to account for these things. But what we also do is leverage budgets. For example, we had a particular account where ACOS and total ACOS were great over Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We also had some really last minute product launches that led to escalated ad spend. And so total ACOS, unfortunately, post Cyber Monday had a really big increase. And so we needed to get spend under control really, really quickly. And so what we did is we actually leveraged both campaign and account level budget caps to drop the spend significant enough that we dropped the total ACOS within 24 hours, at least 5 to 10 points, I think. Now we're keeping a really close eye on our sales, because again, if you drop spend that significantly, that can lead to a drop in sales. You want to pay attention to that. But what we were noticing is that sales are continuously climbing because conversion rates are doing better. the product's pretty stable. So we were able to do that relatively quickly. How big of an impact is that going to have on your sales is going to determine by how much organic ranking you have or how much visibility you have outside of ads. But that's what we're doing. So I would look into leveraging your budget adjustments as much as I would look into making sure that you're very frequently adjusting bids. And you also want to very frequently be checking for negative keywords across everything, because those can bleed out really quickly. Cool. Appreciate the question. So someone says, hi, when running keywords through broad campaigns, it works fine. However, when I run it through ranking exact match time, it's getting clicks only. Why is that so? Yes, that happens. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of negating performing search terms when you elevate them to a keyword in another match type. So what I would say is that it could be the placements that you're showing up on, meaning maybe you're showing higher in top of search, and top of search, that traffic doesn't convert as well. Also, keywords can show up on, say, product pages. So maybe that broad match is triggering, say, product page placements or somewhere else on the search page that works a little bit better for you. I would say, one, this is not an uncommon scenario. Two, I would continue to run both of them and just make sure that you're keeping the original performing keyword in your broad match. Also, to clarify here, you said the keyword is running through broad match campaign and working fine. Did you mean to say the keyword is working, or did you mean to say the search term? Because sometimes what will happen is you'll put a keyword in broad match, but because the way broad match functions, the thing that is converting is actually a different search term. It's not necessarily the same keyword. So I would take a look at the search term reports, unless, of course, you meant to say a search term. In that case, I would say it's not uncommon. I would continue to run both and just see if you can get the exact match to work. But if you keep the broad match running, then you'll at least have that as a backup. Here's a good one. Hi, how do we control our cost per click on our campaigns? Adjust bids. Really, that's your biggest lever here, is adjusting your bids. Now, caveat and why this is not. So what you actually do, your actions are very simple. Adjust bids. The reason this becomes so tricky is because if you lower your bids, you lower your visibility in search, and sometimes lowering your visibility leads to less traffic to the listing, which leads to lower sales volume. So that's where it becomes really difficult in certain cases and in certain products. But really, if you're going to do that, lower your bids. The other thing I would look at is, do you have dynamic anything on your campaigns? So do you have placement percentage increases? Do you have a dynamic up and down bidding set? Those things will also increase your cost per click. So I would look at the campaign settings as well. Cool. I'm going to skip over the one about a course. I would say YouTube is a good source of information for learning more. As far as a particular course, I don't really have one when it comes to specifically PPC. All right, so we have another question. If a base bid for a keyword is $1 and our bidding strategy is dynamic bid down only, in addition, we have a top insert placement of 50%, does it make it $1.50 for top of search, or can it get just 50 cents because of the dynamic bidding? You would say your cost per click in theory could go up to $1.50. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be always $1.50, because it is what's called a second price auction, which means you will only ever pay 1 cent more than whatever the next highest bid was. So, for example, your bid could go up to $1.50. However, because if the next highest bid was 30 cents, then you're only going to pay 31 cents. So it depends both on your settings. So think of your bid and your cost per clicks and your budgets and all of those settings on the campaign. That's you telling Amazon, I am willing to pay up to X, and then what you actually pay is determined by the market or the competition. That makes sense. Cool. This is a good question, which by the way, guys, keep them coming. If you have an Amazon ad question and you're joining in, feel free to type it into the chat. I will be here until 1 p.m. So we got a good 50 minutes left to go. But this LinkedIn user is asking, is it a good idea to run more phrase match keywords during December since more people are in the buying mood? I would say yes. The caveat here is that typically speaking, Q4 is not the time to run really aggressive testing. So I'm a huge fan of phrase match. I think it gives you a good amount of control over what search terms are going to trigger, but also kind of allows you to reach out and find more search terms. So that can be helpful because there are certain searches that just automatically get more search volume during Q4 because there's more people on Amazon searching for particular products. Now, would I specifically say oh, we need to go out and launch phrase match keywords? I don't know. Q4 is not a good time to, again, do aggressive tests because typically cost per clicks are a little bit higher because, again, going back to my previous question on what the cost per clicks actually are, that's determined by the market. And in this sort of shopping season, everyone who's selling is I want to sell more. I want to make sure I can get that traffic. And so they're willing to pay a little bit more this time of year. So sometimes these can get expensive. What I would do is I would say if you found some really good keywords and you want to test them, phrase match is probably a good option. I would just keep my bids low and then work my way up instead of starting with super aggressive bids. Would be my recommendation. Unless you're hey, I have virtually unlimited budget and I have a lot of budget to test and maybe go crazy, but just be careful of the potential spend you're introducing. All right, here's a good one. Ali, any strategy for PPC ads for brand new launch SKUs? Yes. I have an entire video going over keyword research for product launches on our YouTube channel. Looks like you're aware of our YouTube channel, seeing as you're commenting on YouTube. I would recommend going and looking for that video and watching it. That's going to give you a really good idea of how we recommend sort of starting with very specific keywords. I go a lot over keywords. What keywords you pick for your launch strategy really sets you off on the right or the wrong foot. That's the most pivotal thing to get right. So I would highly recommend doing really deep dive keyword research. Gone are the days of shotgunning it, autos, broad, and then work your way into the exact. We're doing the opposite these days because we have such good keyword research tools available to us. So I'd say one, double, triple down on your keyword research. And then once you launch those, what you're looking for is where can I get the positive trends? So we had a product launch that we did recently. Again, that was a product launch I spoke of. So it's not great to launch directly before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but because of just shipping delays and all of that, that's what we ended up doing. We built out a really robust product launch strategy. That particular product is struggling to get traction. So what we're doing is we're looking deep into the search term reports. We're looking deep into all of the advertising that we're doing. And we're just saying, where are we getting traction? And let's double, triple down there. So that's really your goal in the beginning. If you can afford to, we like to start bids high and then work our way down. So as far as you pick your keyword launches, I would focus on exact match, potentially phrase match. If you're struggling to get any traction with exact match, we use fixed bidding strategy, primarily looking at sponsored product ads. And then within the first 24 hours, we're checking to see, are we even getting impressions? If you're struggling to get impressions, the goal is to get those impressions. And then as soon as you get those impressions, then you're looking for whatever generated sales. So you're looking to push it up, and then wherever you see the positive tractions in terms of sales, you push more there, and then you just work your way up. So hopefully that was helpful. Oh, this is a good one. So product is a winter-specific selling goods. Sells through the year, a lot of variations. We are mostly running profitable auto campaigns. How do you control spend after winter without losing? Okay. So that's your question, is after the peak season, because you're mostly running in auto campaigns, you're wondering about the momentum. Question is, I don't want to lose momentum of campaigns by making false decisions, lowering bids, or restricting campaign spend. Okay. I appreciate the context. I love when I get questions that give me that context. So I really appreciate kind of like that follow-up here. One thing I'm going to say is if you are primarily focused on auto campaigns, you could run into some potential issues come Q1. Actually, either like December 24th, December 25th, watch for that conversion rate dip. Okay, so this is what you're doing is you're watching for when your conversion rates take a drop, because they will. If it sells really well in winter, if it's a pretty giftable product, a lot of people are looking for, I want to get this product shipped in by Christmas. And as soon as your ship times go out past Christmas, you will see a significant and immediate drop in your conversion rates. So that conversion rate drop is a trigger point in which you're looking for. And what's going to happen is, because things are going well, conversion rates should continuously increase the deeper we get into December and the closer to Christmas. And so you're probably going to be increasing bids, right, to capitalize on all the positive things, because ACoS is going to be great, right, because conversion rates are going up, means ACoS goes down. That's just the way the trends go. And what happens is Amazon, because it's an auto campaign, it's probably going to latch on to a specific search term that works really well for you right now when conversion rates are up. For example, we have a product line that we advertise, and we went back and we looked at the search term reports for like Q4, specifically December, because we wanted to know what was our best search term, what was our best performing new search term in the month of December specifically. Our best search term, the one that drove sales at a very profitable ACoS, was the word baby. Now, should I be bidding on the keyword baby? I would probably never assume that that was a really good search term, because it's so broad, it's so vague. We absolutely crushed it on that keyword, right? So we increased our bids, we're increasing budgets, we're working to capitalize off this positive momentum. But what happens, because there's so much search volume on a keyword as vague as baby, as soon as conversion rates dropped, we're still spending on this. If it's in autos or bot, Amazon's still like, hey, we've seen positive trends here. This is where I'm going to push all the traffic from, right? Well, the problem is, as soon as that conversion rate drops off, your ACoS goes through the roof, because you're spending so much on broader terms that convert really well in peak season and do not convert well at all after you get out of that peak season. So what you're going to want to do is watch your search term reports very closely and watch your conversion rate trends. As soon as you see those conversion rate trends drop, go in, start looking at short date ranges again, because you want to see what's happening right now, and start looking for all of those terms that are absolutely bleeding cash. And you want to need to be very quick and reactive with this. Unfortunately, what happens in a lot of accounts, if you're not paying attention, is you're going to have this trend and you're not going to catch it until like a week in, because you just don't know to anticipate it. So anyone who has most of their account focused on broader terms or auto campaigns, these work phenomenally peak season. They will absolutely crush you as soon as those conversions drop. So I would say I wouldn't be worried so much about losing momentum as I would be worried about making sure you're correcting for that conversion drop in the form of adjusting your bids, potentially adjusting budgets, and then make sure you're adding negative keywords. And those negative keywords, maybe you want to keep a record of them somewhere, because you might want to remove them, next Q4 or test them, in my recommendation. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully those of you watching got some value out of that, because that's a very, very common scenario. Like kind of, again, post Q4 peak, that slump and that absolute craziness, it gets exponentially worse if you have most of your spend in autos and broader. Yep. So this is a question for new product strategies. Start with auto campaigns or do keyword research and run in a phrase match. Additional question to above question. Yes, I would not start with auto campaigns. Again, very extensive keyword research. And I would focus most on exact match and then potentially add in some phrase match maybe a week later, or you can add in phrase match immediately if you think it's going to make sense for the product. All right, here's a good question. Do having some keywords in multiple campaigns impact the overall performance? But it seems both of them are giving sales. If both of them are working, it happens. I mean, you're gonna have some people who believe in like strict isolation strategies, and they're gonna probably hate me for my answer. But we all have those things in our account. We all have those Franken campaigns that were set up like 3 years ago that are working, and everyone's like, I hate that this works, but it works. If something is working, I would be very careful about turning it off because you don't know the potential impact of it. So I wouldn't say it's gonna like majorly affect the overall performance if both of them are working. If you think you can get away with like pausing one of them, that might be something to test. Or you might just like say lower one of the bids and see if you can get most of the traffic to go through the other one. The other like follow-up question to this would be, are they in different match types? If you have the same keyword but it's in different match types and in different campaigns, I would have no problem with it whatsoever. If it's the same match type, again, be careful with how like drastically you adjust stuff, but that might it's not the end of the world. Let's put it that way. Cool. Keep them coming, guys. This is awesome. We're not even quite 30 minutes in. So for anyone who is joining, and hopefully maybe I'll take a drink of my coffee here so I don't lose my voice. But if anyone has any Amazon ad questions, feel free to type those in the chat, and I will make sure that those get answered. And there will be a replay of this on our YouTube channel as well. So if I say something, hopefully I say something good, and you want to go rewatch it, it will be there. Cool. This is a long one. Let's see if we can get you an answer. So if I'm trying to rank on a keyword where the conversion rate is good, such as 20%, but I'm still not able to rank in the top 5, should I increase the bid so I can increase my sales velocity on that keyword to improve organic rank? Overall, when you decide to stop pushing any further on a keyword and keeping the current organic position stable. By the way, I really like the way you explain key Amazon concepts. Awesome. Well, I appreciate this question. It's a really good one. And hopefully I that's my hope to do a good job at explaining and making something that's kind of complicated a little bit less complicated. So yes, I would say if there is potential to increase the bid and increase your placement, meaning where you're going to show, where your ads are going to show on the search page, then yes, that's probably something good to test. This is really one of those answers where it's like a test it and see kind of thing. So what we do, to your point, is, making sure let's increase the bids and see what kind of additional traction we can gain. And then track your ranking, which seems like that's what you're doing. And then your question on when you decide to stop pushing. So if I had, if we increase our bids, most likely a cost is going to increase because you're paying more, right? So I would want to watch over the span. It depends on how competitive this keyword is, honestly. But over the span of the next couple weeks, like sometimes you see immediate lift within the span of, a couple days. And then sometimes it takes you a week or two. But I would see, can I see lift in my keyword rankings if I sort of increase the bids, even if, again, I'm assuming a cost is going to be higher here. And then, yes, continue. If no, probably go back to where it was. And that would be like my testing sequence. And again, how soon you're going to see that lift is really going to depend on how competitive the keyword is. Cool. One other thing you could try on here is now it doesn't have as much impact to say going after like a main keyword and exact match, and to your point, having a really high bid. You might also try product targeting on those main competitors to see if you can gain traction that way as well. That's another good thing to do. All right, this is a good question. What is the best campaign structure on Amazon? Best being relative, because my answer would be, what is the scenario? However, I would say across the board, ideal structure is going to be one campaign or one ad group per campaign, if at all possible, and then one product line per in each campaign, and therefore each ad group. And when I say per one product line, I mean one parent ASIN or like one listing. So what you don't want to have is to have one campaign with like 20 different listing products in the same one. You want to keep it one campaign, one ad group, and one product line, or one parent ASIN. Now, as far as the number of keywords, that's a whole rant. I don't believe in any hard and fast rules here. Unfortunately, I actually have a whole video on our YouTube channel. It's called, I think it's like the thumbnail, I think it's a single keyword campaign ? And it's like, how many keywords should you put in a campaign? Because I have it like it's depends answer, and there are several like qualifying questions that I give. So the two things that I want to figure out is the more control I need over the spend of this keyword, and the more important it is to my campaign strategy to be able, or the more important impressions are to my campaign strategy, the less keywords I want in that campaign. For example, an exact match ranking keyword high bid, right? I want to have specific control over the budget that I'm going to be allocating here. And two, impressions are hyper important to my strategy because it's a ranking keyword. I must get impressions here. So therefore, I might even go to the extreme on a single keyword campaign. That being said, if I have a whole bunch of single word broad match keywords, right? Maybe my strategy is to set really low bids. Maybe I have 15-cent bids and I never intend to increase the bids on those keywords. I don't need a huge amount of control over the spend here because my bids are sort of acting as a cap because I'm not going to increase those bids. So I do need control over the spend, but I don't need control over like a single keyword spend because my goal here is just to almost kind of like a low profitability, just kind of see what kind of impressions and sales I can get through these things, right? And how important are impressions to the strategy? I'm expecting half of these keywords to not even get an impressions whatsoever. Because that's just kind of the nature of low bids. Oftentimes you don't get impressions. So the answer to these two questions, right? How important is it for me to control spend at the campaign level? And then how important is impressions to the strategy of this campaign? The answer is like not very much. And so I would be fine with putting much more keywords into that campaign, is essentially the way that we look at it. So that's kind of that was a short answer or the short explanation of what that's contained in that video. So hopefully that helps. Cool. Here's a good one. A good converting keyword having 10K search volume. The brand impression share is 5%. So does it make sense if we try to capture share to 10%, even more through a high bid? Again, it's going to be one of those test it and see kind of answers. I would just say, like, can we increase the bid? So I would increase the bid. And if your goal is to gain more brand impression share, then what happens to the brand impression share when I increase the bid? And again, I would track it over the span of some things you're going to see really fast traction on. If there's a little bit less competition on it, meaning you might see within a couple days, 2 or 3 days. Other ones, sometimes it takes you a week to see really anything, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, depending on the competition. So I would just say, hey, test it and see. And then the answer to, does it make sense to go up to like double it to a 10%? Depends on what the market is going to allow. So if you get really aggressive with your bids and you sustain that for a month and you're only ever able to get up to 7% and you're holding that top of search placement, then that's probably what you're going to be able to do for market competition. So there's no real like, trust me, I've gone through search query. I've like tried to work out every possible forecasting. It's just there's not enough solid data per search page to be able to like really forecast it. So it's a test, watch, adjust accordingly, really. Yeah, so somebody was saying something about exact match keywords are generally for higher costs and do not. Yeah, if you're doing good keyword research, that's why. If you're doing like exact match product launch strategy, you really want to dig into keyword research specifically. Here's a good question. How much effect do auto campaigns have in ranking of listings? So they can have a lot of effect. The problem is, say one of your search terms in the auto campaign, because it's really about sales velocity. So if you're getting significant amounts of sales velocity through a main search, if they're triggered through an auto campaign, you are going to increase, you could increase in your rankings, right? So that could be positive. The negative with doing it through the autos is that you have little to no control, meaning, so say that happens, right? In a typical exact match ranking campaign, what you would do is be like, oh, wow, I am noticing impact in organic ranking. Let me increase the bids, right? And you're only spending more on that one search page because it's an exact match. There's slight variations to exact match. Let's, for like simplification purposes, say we're only increasing what we're willing to spend on this one search page. Or if I increase the budgets, right, and say we went through how I was talking about potentially for very high impact keywords, I'm doing single keyword campaigns, meaning one campaign, one ad group, again, one product line, one keyword. So I got a lot of control here. I can say, okay, I want to spend more in my budgets. My budgets are running out. So I'm going to increase my budget again, but that budget is only going to that one keyword, which is only triggering, say, one search page, right? So how I'm directing my spend, I have a lot of control. Versus an auto campaign, maybe it's triggering through, say, close match, right? So if you go and increase the bids on your close match targeting, you are increasing your cost per clicks for every single search term that targeting is triggering, which you could have hundreds of search terms that particular target is triggering, and you're increasing what you're spending on all of them. Same thing with the budget, right? Because so many things are being triggered through your auto. If your budget's running out, you're not directing that additional budget to that one thing that is driving your ranking. So that's where you run into issues because you don't have, there's little to no control over where your spend is being directed to. So do they have impact on ranking? Yes. Is it a good long-term strategy? My personal opinion is no, because if all of a sudden that one, like Amazon decides to spend all of my budget on another search term that's not working, I can't do anything about it. Where that's not going to happen in exact match. Greene said, thank you, understood. That's awesome. I'm really glad you understood. I had a follow-up question. Do pausing keywords which are giving impressions with no click impact the total sales? Spending on a keyword called printer and exact match is giving immense amount of impressions, no conversions, because I know it's way broad, but if I pause it, is there any possibility of losing sales? Because the client might mention this, as per me, it should not. So I would say in theory you would be correct that it's not. I have seen sometimes that it will have impact. One other thing you could do is say test loading the bid. So whenever you have something, you're like, should I pause this? Should I not pause this? Again, it's like a test it and watch what happens. So what you would want to do is either straight up pause it and then watch over the span of a couple days, see if there's been any impact. Or the other thing that you can do is lower bids. Lowering bids is like an in-between step between keeping something active and then pausing it. So you lower it so low that you essentially pause it. There might be some impressions gained through it. And then if it becomes an issue, you can start pushing bids again. So I would say it shouldn't impact anything. There's potential to impact something. So I would just watch it, is all I would say. All right, here's a great question. If a shopper comes to the listing through PPC and leaves and purchases the same product or other from our store later, how much is that time limit that Amazon attributes that particular sale to that campaign? In your sponsored product ads, there's a 7-day attribution window. In your sponsored brand and display ads, there's a 14-day sales attribution window. That one was pretty cut and dry. That one was not an it depends answer. So awesome. Yeah, I appreciate everyone joining in, and we got some more time here. That's the only thing about other people not being able to speak and typing out is I feel like I need to continuously talk this entire time. Hopefully I don't lose my voice. Cool. Looks like we don't have anything else in the chat. So if anyone else has any Amazon ad questions, or if you've just joined, feel free to type a question in the chat. We've been getting some really awesome ones, on product launches, which, by the way, my team has given me on the hook to make some sort of training on product launches that we intend at some point to release publicly. So do keep an eye on our socials for that. I'm super stoked, and also got a lot of stuff on my plate, so I need to get that done. Cool. Another question: how to find other product advertised ASINs? That is a good question. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can, the best place to find them is going to be your search term reports, because if you're running any auto campaigns or if you're running category targeting, you will find ASINs that are performing, and those you can retarget, again, like specifically. That's what I would recommend. You can leverage category targeting and what's called expanded ASIN targeting to be able to find, again, the users as sort of keyword research methods. So that's what you can do outside of like specific keyword research. The other two keyword research or like product ASIN targeting methods that we would look at is one, looking at products that we feel like we have a good chance of converting on that are ranked high on our main keywords. That's a really great way to, kind of target those. Or you can use black box inside of Helium 10, because we use Helium 10 for a lot of our keyword research methods. You can use black box to like filter for certain like categories and conditions of products. And again, I would pick ones that I feel like our product has a really good chance of competing with. Here's a great question from Google. Hi Elizabeth, do you do video and category targeting ads to help increase keyword rankings? That is a good question. Yes, we do video targeting, and yes, we often will test video category targeting. However, like, I always hate to say this because it's taken in the context of like, don't run sponsor brand ads. Sponsor brand ads are terrible, and that's not true. However, the one thing that I have figured out, just because I've observed it in so many accounts and in so many audits that I've done, is that typically speaking, sponsor brand ads don't have as big of an impact on organic ranking. So what our approach to that is like, okay, if it doesn't make as much sense to get aggressive here, then oftentimes we will just make sure that we're running them profitably. And there are certain times where like clients will be like, hey, why are we not running this brand ad? And we're like, well, your account target ACoS is 20%. And when we ran that test, we couldn't get the ACoS below 50%. So if you want us to run it, we'll run it at a loss. But that being said, we don't feel like it's the best allocation of resources, and yet our rankings remain stable. So it's really, there are certain times you want to defend specific placements, but for the most part, we typically do those for profitability, or we optimize for profitability. I think this question got answered before. Fahid, you were asking about trying to rank on keywords and push into the top spot. Yeah. Okay. So I think I answered that one. If you weren't able to catch it, there will be a replay of this. I answered it earlier. Hey, Shad. So hope you had a strong Black Friday, Cyber Monday week. Yeah, actually, it was quite strong. It did really well. How do you frame up sponsored brand ads? What is the overall strategy for ad type? Do you focus on keywords you do well are already on? Yeah. So that is the best strategy we found is looking at what's performing in sponsored product ads and then running it into sponsored brand ads. It's probably the most efficient way to scale up in terms of performance measures. In your keywords you already on, or keywords that you aspire to do better for brand awareness? So I would say both. But then again, what we focus on is primarily like just performance and making sure we're within targets. I'd have to double check with the team on this, but unless it's a specific client request, if we're just left to our own devices, oftentimes we won't elect to get super aggressive and run a sponsored brand ad unprofitably, while we might elect to get a bit more aggressive and run at a higher ACoS in a sponsored product ad, again, because we've seen more impact on rankings from sponsored product ads. And I always have to put an asterisk, like, I'm not hating on sponsored brand ads. We do run them. We love them. And that's just what we've observed. Cool. So question is, shopper clicks on a particular ASIN, comes to listing, goes to store and purchases the other non-advertised ASINs. How to find out that one, what has been purchased through this campaign's ASIN. Yes, so you can download 2 reports for sponsored campaigns and sponsored display ads, and there's 1 report for sponsored brand ads. One of them that is available also in the sponsored brand ad is called a purchase product report, or there's the advertised products report. I do believe the purchase product report tells you the specific product that has been purchased through that ad. So that would be the way to find that. Cool. In optimizing Amazon PPC campaigns, how do you strike the right balance between bid optimization and keyword relevancy and ensure maximum visibility and conversions? Great question, especially considering the evolving landscape of Amazon's 8 and 9 algorithm, the increasing competition within the platform. Great question, and that's a hard one. So this is what we've done over the years, and this is the way our algorithm is set up, is that anything that is driving, so we will favor things, favor as in increase bids quicker or decrease bids slower if we're noticing a high order volume through that keyword. And this is something that gets micro tweaked based on the account and the performance of the product and all the above, so we'll put different like order thresholds on stuff as far as like where we draw that line between these should be favored and these should not be. The other thing that we have realized, so if you are only ever looking at order volume and favoring only the things that have high orders, you will naturally favor auto campaigns, broad match, categories, all the things that trigger many more search terms and have a much higher potential for higher order volumes. So with that, we built in certain restrictions that will take into account the match type as well as the order volume. And what we'll do, and if you naturally are looking for things with high conversion rates typically mean that the ACoS is better. So what we'll do is if we find something that's performing well, that has high order volume, that has good conversion rates, and has ACoS within our targets, we're going to turn that thing up significantly. If we find something that has, again, it's more restrictive match type, or we're noticing high order volumes, what you'll find is that if you lower those bids too drastically, oftentimes you will really screw up market share or you'll screw up the sales in the account. So those will lower. We still want to lower it if ACoS is above whatever we can tolerate, but we're not going to lower it as significantly. And if you do this, and again, adding in the context of what match type this is, that's going to naturally start pushing the things that have good conversion rates and order volume in more exact match types. And then it will start lowering everything that doesn't work. So you can get a lot of correction in the account if you have the proper bid management structures set in. That's why, honestly, I think the 2 biggest things to get right if you are trying to run a good ad account is keyword selection, what are we targeting, and bid adjustments, making sure we're doing frequent and intentional bid adjustments. So not sure if hopefully that was helpful. Got a little bit of sneak peek into what we use for our bid algorithms. But yeah, if there is any more questions, I'm going to be here for about 15 more minutes if there's any other questions. So if you have an Amazon ad question, feel free to ask it in the chat and I will make sure it gets answered. And then quick reminder, these these get recorded and they will be in the live section of our YouTube channel primarily. Which, by the way, I should drop it in the chat, although I'm not sure if it goes out on LinkedIn. If you want to get notified of future lives, We actually have a Google Calendar that we are updating. So if you want to get on that calendar and get notified of when things go live, feel free to click that and then just add that Google Calendar. And then you should see all the notifications. And I am going to be doing these once a week on Thursdays, unless like last week Thursday fell on Thanksgiving, so I did not sneak away from family to to talk about Amazon ads, although maybe part of me wished I did. Cool. So follow-up question: what is the significance of adjusting bid strategies based on the placement of your Amazon PPC ads? How does this impact the overall campaign performance? Bidding strategies. Are you talking about placement percentage adjustments? If that's the case, then I would say, yeah, leveraging placement percentage adjustments is great. If you say you want to leverage top of search, again, we're a little bit careful as to which campaigns we put this on, meaning I'm not a huge fan of adjusting placement percentages on things like auto, broad. As a general rule, there's some really like interesting specific campaign strategies you can get into if you want to get a little bit more advanced, but those are like fun, interesting, let's test this. They're not like core strategies of ours. So I would say as far as placements, make sure it makes sense that this is a keyword that you want to intentionally invest in. And then 2, we adjust those incrementally, meaning I wouldn't go from like 0 top of search placement percentage to like 500 or anything. I would adjust it, 10, 20%. Again, it's like a test, see what happens, adjust accordingly type strategy. So the good one. So what is your daily, weekly practice of documenting data such as cost per click, conversion rate, tacos? Is better to document daily or weekly? Which KPIs you think are important to record and draw conclusions from them? That is a great question. So we used to have the problem with documenting daily if you're doing it manually. It's painful. Really, you want to be able to track things on a per product level, and also data will retroactively update, meaning even if you're recording it daily, you should be going back and like back updating all of your data like 30 days back. So capturing this data manually and updating it is a huge pain. And as you can imagine, across a whole bunch of clients and then hundreds of products, thousands at some per client, like that gets really old really fast. So what we do, honestly, in this case, as far as data capturing, software is honestly the best. We use a lot of internal systems, which we've kind of built in a way our own internal software. But if you wanted to ask me about analytics, I'm a huge fan of leveraging software here. The one we use and absolutely could not live without is called KPOQ, which is KAPOQ. Love them, have worked with them for over a year now, probably going on 2 years pretty soon, and we at this point couldn't live without them. And they track any data point you could possibly want, they will have it. So if you can leverage software here, I would. If I had to track it manually, I want to track total sales, sessions, unit session percentage, ad sales, ad spend, ad orders, impressions, clicks. And then from all of those, you can extrapolate like your ACoS, total ACoS, ad sale percentage is a huge one. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones you extrapolate. I think those are those would be the main ones if it's possible to track it on a per product level. Again, that gets difficult, that gets tricky, and then you have all the back updating to do. But at the very least, I would say doing it weekly. And then if you can afford to do it daily or leverage the software to do it daily, then that becomes more scalable. Have you conducted any PPC campaigns using both relevant and closely related keywords and maintain a fixed bid of 25% or lower? Sometimes, but not with any amount of impressions, I would say. For certain, it really depends on the keyword. It depends on the keyword and what placements are available for that type of cost per click. My guess is like depending on the search page you in the auction you've entered, there's probably not all that many options in terms of impressions. So can you do it? Maybe. I would say as far as getting any impressions whatsoever, your best bet is going to be broad match. If I had to test this, I would test it in a broad match because your potential to trigger searches is a lot higher in that match type. You're not as restrictive. Cool. So Sebastian, I don't know if you have a follow-up question on that, but hopefully that answer was helpful at all. Yeah, trying to get things super profitable in competitive spaces. It's difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it can be difficult, but is doable in some circumstances, for sure. Cool. So yeah, we have about a little less than 10 minutes. I got a hard stop at 1. So if anyone else has any additional questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Otherwise, we may end slightly early, so I can make sure I can make it to my next call on time. This is a good question. So why is it better to do it daily versus weekly? Because you will catch trends much quicker. You will catch trends much quicker. So say you launch a whole bunch of campaigns one day, right? And your spend doubles. If you're only tracking it weekly, then it's going to take you a week to figure out that you had really high spend, versus if you're tracking it daily, you can catch it in 24 to 48 hours. So that's why daily is preferred. But if it's a pain, if you can't do it daily because it's really, again, it's difficult, then I would do it weekly. I would just split the difference and do it weekly. The software tools we use allow us to chart trends on a graph as well as compare 2 date ranges and trends. And it's really helpful for us to chart the things on the graph because you can immediately see the spikes. And we're also able to filter for certain products and see the graph of trends for a certain listing, a subset of listings, a specific product. Like there's so many ways we can slice and dice the data, and our insights are pretty much instant. But yeah, cool. So your question, yeah. So if you're asking about spend spikes, is it too early to judge? Like you said, 24 to 48 hours, potentially. But if I saw a sales spike, sales spike would be great. If I saw a spend spike over 2 days and I didn't see any impact in the total sales increases, I didn't see any impact on ad sale increases, and I didn't see any impact on sessions, I can make a judgment call within 24 to 48 hours that that's probably, maybe not necessarily we want to turn it off, because to your point, it can take some time to test things. But at the very least, we should be maybe reevaluating how much we're investing. And when I say spend spikes, like it's very easy in Q4 to launch something and have your spend double overnight. Like these times are times to really keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on. And you should be checking your accounts daily. And no matter how many clients we get, we will always check accounts daily. Now, again, we have scalable ways of doing that because we're leveraging software here, but we need to be able to like check these things and keep a finger on the pulse, because it's so easy for stuff to spin out of control. And it's not always that you actually even have to do much. It's just you need to know what's going on, and daily is the best way to do that. That is a good point, right? There is such a thing as over-optimizing. Over-optimizing would be not giving things enough clicks to be able to make that determination. But if I got 200 clicks within a 48-hour period and my click-through rate was really low and I had 0 orders, I have enough clicks to make a judgment call. And it's only, 24, 48 hours, right? Maybe I'm not turning it off. Maybe it's something I'm trying to see if I can get any traction on, but the very least, I probably don't have to spend that much on it. So there's ways I think that you can make judgment calls. It depends on the data, really, the volume of data, really. So hopefully that answers your question on clarity. And yeah, I agree with you. You do want to give some things some leeway, but you also you don't want to let things run for weeks and weeks without doing anything to them, or at the very least being aware of something. So that would be my feedback there. Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. We got about 5 minutes left. If anyone else has any additional questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. I probably have time to answer one more if you can squeak it in now. Otherwise, might just call it. Cool. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys all for the questions. There were some really, really awesome ones. So if you want to catch the replay of this or you missed the beginning of it, feel free to hit up our YouTube channel. Yeah, so Amazon Marketing Cloud, you need to have access to DSP to be able to get Amazon Marketing Cloud. Sebastian had a quick last place question about that. So Marketing Cloud is awesome. It allows you to see so much insights into the shopper journey, and like it is amazing. But your clients have to be leveraging DSP to be able to get access to it. So that typically is more enterprise clients, which gets a little bit more into the weeds. So awesome if you can get access to it, would be my answer. Cool. So I'm going to end this so I can hop to my next call, but really I appreciate this. You guys have no idea how much I really enjoy these things. So expect to see me next Thursday, same time, same place. And yeah, come with your Amazon ad questions and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys.